But our role in this industry is to make sure that clients always have choice. And so it's not just because we want to fill a quota or we want to check a box or we want to make sure that everyone knows this is important. Clients expect it, and we as an industry need to respond.
Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Leah Alter.
And I'm Joanna Erisman.
And this is WomenShare, a celebration of women in financial services.
Before we dive into today's topic, I want to give a shout out to Axtella, our presenting sponsor of WomenShare. Axtella is dedicated to helping financial professionals take their practices to new heights.
So if you're ready for a firm that goes the extra mile for its advisors, check out Axtella today at go.axtella.com/womenshare. That's go.axtella.com/womenshare.
Well, on today's episode, we have an opportunity to hear from a woman who's kind of done it all in the industry. We'll talk about the exciting organization she's now part of, how she found her rhythm as an executive in industry-leading organizations, and how she supports women's advancement. We're so pleased to welcome Terri Kallsen, Senior Operating Partner at RIAs Growth Partners, a synergistic financial partner for growth-focused middle-market RIAs. Terri has held executive leadership roles in leading firms like Charles Schwab, USAA, Thrivent, and Wealth Enhancement Group. She also serves on the board of directors for the CFP board and holds the CFP certification herself. So she's no slouch, as you can see. I got to know Terri during our time at Wealth Enhancement Group. And as you'll hear in this episode, the way she supported building community and creating space for women at that firm was inspiring to me personally. And I can't wait for our listeners to hear more from her. So Terri, welcome to WomenShare.
Thank you so much, Joanna and Leah. It is my pleasure to be here. And I just want to say I read your blog this morning, and it's the celebration of women in the community. And that is so important. And so when you asked me to be on your podcast, I love to celebrate, number one, and to celebrate women is even a better priority for me. So thanks so much. I'm excited about our time together.
Well, thank you for reading the blog. We love to hear it. We made a big announcement. By the time this episode comes out, everyone will know, but we made a big announcement this morning in a blog post with a little change for us. But it means something big, right? Like celebrating women is what we're all about. So we're so thrilled to have you on the show today. RIAs Growth Partners launched just this last fall of 2023, introducing a new minority investing option for RIAs with assets between 2 and 12 billion. So we'd love to hear more about RIAs Growth Partners and the types of firms that you're working with.
Sure. Well, RIAs Growth is really a synergistic financial partner. And what we mean by that, it's very innovative in this space. And there are a lot of obviously private equity firms working with RIAs to help create growth in the industry and serve more clients. Where RIAs Growth is a little bit different is we are called a minority investor. And what that means is we only buy up to 40% of a firm. We don't take 100% control, which is a little different than a lot of the consolidators out there. Now, both approaches work. It just depends on what ultimately the client wants to achieve. And so what we do at RIAs Growth is we look at various RIAs and we look at a criteria of, are they a growing, thriving RIA? What is their client experience first and foremost? What types of clients do they serve? And what type of tech stack do they have and operational efficiency? And we look at that and we talk to the owners, the founders, and we say, what is it? What's your end game? What do you want to achieve? And when we do that, if in fact they want to continue to grow, they need capital to grow, right? That's an important ingredient. Capital is an important ingredient for all private equity firms and RIAs in the wealth management industry. What we bring to the table in addition to that capital is expertise. And when I look at the partners at RIAs Growth, you've got Joe Duran, who led United Capital, Asset Mark. I mean, he's just an entrepreneur at heart. Darius, who was the CEO of a important banking and mortgage organization. Brian Shenson, who also was a head of a advisor services tech stack at Charles Schwab. Phil Jacobson, who also was a key advisor, key leader at United Capital, and it continues on and on and on. Now we're all actually still hiring, so when you bring me back next time, I'll tell you about all the additional names. But I know this podcast is really about how do we celebrate that growth together. But we at Rise Growth are really looking for those RIAs that want to grow, that need capital, but want operational expertise. And the reason for that is we can point out the challenges, the setbacks, and hopefully avoid those so that we can accelerate growth and that client experience ultimately in the best way customized for that RIA. And so we're in the ballgame. We've got private equity backing from Charles Bank, who's an excellent private equity firm. We're partnering and investing in these firms, launching them, helping them grow. And then as we continue to grow, they'll be more and more of the lighthouse brand in the RIA industry.
I love it's almost a little Inception in that it very much mimics the advisory business, right? Which is if you grow, I grow. And if we all are doing our jobs right, then we all have skin in the game and we will all profit from it versus an all or nothing approach. And I imagine advisors are really excited about that.
We are. I mean, the founders that I talk to, and what's really exciting is it's women and men. There are a lot of female founders of fantastic RAs as well as men. And so when we talk with them, when we ask them, what are your goals? Just like we do with clients, right? I was an advisor at one point in my life. I worked with clients. I'm still a CFP. What it is that you want to achieve. And then are we the right partner? Are we the right advisor to help you accelerate your capability to achieve those goals, right? They may want liquidity. They may need to invest in technology. They may want to do sub-acquisitions of other RIA firms. We're there to help them formulate that strategy and execute and point out the challenges that may get in the way. And so we're getting a very positive response. And, Leah, such a great question. But one of the things that I love is when I talk to the founders, I don't have to say to them, well, this is how you will do it, right? It's very much a collaborative approach. They are still the majority owner, and we're there to help navigate and guide versus control.
Well, and the access to expertise, like when you listed the roster of who you have there at Rise Growth, like talk about a stellar lineup of people who have been there, done that, right? And can help them. It's like, oh, I've seen this movie before. I know what you need to do with your tech stack, right? Or get into the acquisition game. So that's cool. Very cool.
It's been a lot of fun for me, Joanna. I've spent 30 years in this industry, as I mentioned, as an advisor, as a CFP, and as a leader. And for me now, this is my chance to give back. Now, when I'm working with firms that are 3 billion, 5 billion, 12 billion, I can really feel like I can help them and be a partner with them and a guide. And there's nothing more rewarding that at this point in my career is to give back to an industry, which I think is amazing.
Wow. That's really cool. Congratulations. That's an exciting move in your career.
Thank you.
Now, Leah and I are marketers by background, and so we love to talk organic growth and what's working for RIAs. Given you're seeing such a wide swath of firms out there, what are you noticing? Like, what are the trends? You mentioned typically the firms you partner with have a strong organic growth track record. What do you see as foundational to that? What are they doing right?
Well, there's a couple different things I would say. And at Rise Growth, we have this program called Enterprise Readiness Assessment. And in that assessment, we're working with RIAs to understand their leadership culture and structure, right? Because leadership is incredibly important when you want to really achieve serving more clients and meeting more needs. And when I use the term organic growth, what that translates in my brain, my very simple brain, is I want to serve more clients and meet more needs, right? Because that's what we're in the game for. We're in the game to help clients achieve their financial goals. So we work with the leadership culture, the structure, and the business management systems so that we can achieve that organic growth. We also work with their platform per se. So what type of technology are they using? How are they integrating that with their CRM system? How are they generating leads? How are they following up on leads? That tech stack is definitely something that we are working with. And then on the other hand, just the organic growth themselves, what is their brand? When they are in an elevator and they're talking to someone, a potential prospect, how are they describing the goodness that their firm delivers day in and day out? So those are some of the things: the brand, the website, the social media, the digital. Obviously, lead generation is so important, but how are they actually handling those leads? What's the follow-up process? We get into quite a bit of detail there, and there's so much opportunity out there. I mean, when we're working, especially with, obviously baby boomers have lots of needs, but Gen X and Gen Z, they really want a financial plan. They want a guide. They want an advisor. And so we really help them create that brand organically so that they're able to articulate that very effectively to prospects as well as to current clients.
Wow. So it's both, not just marketing strategies, but it's like step one, make sure they've got the functional capacity to continue growing, right? Because in past experience, right, it was like skill, will, and capacity, right? The
That's
capacity is
right.
often a big, right? Okay. So I can see how those all layer together to then
Yeah.
help them unlock that growth.
We look at, it's such a great point, Joanna. We look at, the firm's willingness to grow, right? I mean,
Right.
there has to be a desire to grow, and that's not always the case in everyone, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
that's completely fine, but we assess that. Then we assess capability in leadership as well as across the teams, and how do we know we're capable? What are the facts that, create that in terms of performance metrics, accountability? And then the last one is the capacity. Do you actually have the capacity based on the advisor's book size, their total capacity, the hiring advisors, any sub-acquisitions? Because when we bring those clients on, and that's a lot of work to bring on a new client, we want to make sure it is the very, very best onboarding and then life experience thus far. And in my prior roles, Joanna, we always thought that the first 18 months of a new client onboarding with a firm was the honeymoon period. And we saw net promoter scores at their very highest around 12 to 18 months, right? Because they've onboarded, they've made some important decisions, they've had service experiences, they've had new products, new systems. And after about 18 months, they're like, okay, what have you done for me lately, right?
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yes.
Because, they were very, very happy. And then, maybe it's like a marriage. I've been married 31 years, I'm not saying I'm like, what have you done for me lately? But at times, in a new marriage, it's really fun. And then, life goes on. And the same thing happens with advisors.
Sure.
And so we have to make sure that, from day one to the rest of their time, that we create the very best experience. Because in any firm in general, about 50% of your new organic growth is coming from current clients.
Right.
Yeah. It's their experience, it's their referrals, and you can make that a better process to help grow organically.
Do you run a net promoter score survey with your husband?
A true marketer.
Yes. And then we do reviews at times. And I have to tell you that my score is not always what it should be. I'm a person in process. So
aren't we all?
Aren't we all? So you've held very senior roles in your career across various institutions. So we'd love to hear your thoughts, as you reflect back of your years being in the industry, how far we've come and, where you'd like to see things go, especially in regards to women in the industry.
Well, I'll start with your last question first. Okay. We definitely need more diversity in the industry, and clients expect it, right? I mean, in every organization I've been in, some women only want to work with men. Some women only want to work with women. Some men, honestly, only want to work with women. And because they don't necessarily want the type of dynamic that sometimes happens in competitive situations, right?
Sure.
And so men and women both have the opportunity to choose their advisors. So we need to make sure there's enough. And it's not just gender, it's personality, it's expertise, it's whatever, geographical preference, wherever they are. There's many combinations, but our role in this industry is to make sure that clients always have choice. And so it's not just because we want to fill a quota, or we want to check a box, or we want to make sure that everyone knows this is important. Clients expect it, and we as an industry need to respond. Now, I think we're making progress. And Lee, I'll just share, I'm on the CFP board. And I love my work on the CFP board. It's all volunteer, but the CFP board has made this such an important component of the entire staff and the entire organization. They are paid on the number of CFPs in terms of diversity overall. And today, in 2024, just in March, we just passed our 100,000 CFPs. So there's only 100,000 CFPs in this country. Like, that's shocking, isn't it?
It feels low, but yeah.
It feels very low, but progress. Progress. Yeah. And about a third of all advisors today are CFPs. So that's progress, but we need to get more. But here's the good thing. 24% are women. So it's not where it needs to be, but it's better than the industry average. But there was a 12% increase in women in this past CFP board test. So we are getting better at helping young people decide on a career. So that's where it starts, right? And, I have 3 kids, and when their high school event said career day, I'll just be honest, my son, had me come in and talk about my career. And then my daughters were like, well, could you talk about something else? My son was like, let's talk about CFP and everything. My daughter's like, maybe we could talk about all the work that you've done in, this or that. And I was like, because we don't get people young enough to understand what financial planning, what financial advice, what investments are. There's some stigmas associated with it. So we're breaking some of those barriers, Leah, very, very early in life. And now we're seeing more come through. And then they're finding the rewards of helping people achieve their financial goals. Yeah. And a lot of women really enjoy this because they get to a certain level and they have more autonomy in their role. They have more flexibility. They have, obviously they have monetary rewards, but they also have the biggest reward, and that's helping families achieve their goals. And again, that's what draws me into the profession. And I always am very careful about this. That doesn't mean everyone is wealthy. That doesn't mean everyone has $1 million of investable assets. What it means is they have certain goals. It might be around sharing their money through philanthropy or paying for their kids' college or insuring their lives. And whatever that is, we get to be a part of those conversations. So that's a long answer to your question, but we're getting better as an industry. I think the CFP board is a really strong stance in helping this work because the industry as a whole is moving to a fiduciary standard, which is what the CFP is. So if you get more women and minorities, right? I didn't mention this, but there was also a 13% increase in racially and ethnically diverse CFP certificates. So, they're growing at a fast. So let me just give you an example. So it's a 4% overall growth rate, but women were 12%, racial and minorities were 13%. So even though small numbers, really positive direction that we're going. And in my career, it's always been a priority for me. My mother worked full time and I was a latchkey kid, right? I was a latchkey kid growing up. And my mother was just so positive about work and so positive about her contributions. And so in this industry, I've really tried to give back. I've mentored, hundreds of women and men in this situation and sponsored people into executive roles because they are 2 different things. And this is my lifelong commitment. I'm not done yet. So just wait, interview me a year from now. We'll see if those numbers move faster.
Okay, we're holding you to it. Put it on the calendar.
I love it.
Yeah. And one thing that we talk about is sometimes it can feel frustrating that the number feels stuck, I guess, specifically around women in the industry, but it's also like a pretty big denominator we're working against. So it is helpful to have that reminder that, yes, in terms of total percentage of CFPs, the women are X, but of incoming, it's growing and growing. And so you can, if you forecast it out, if you get out your Excel spreadsheet, right, you can see how that change is coming, which is really heartening.
Well, here's the positive part of the end of my own personal story is I mentioned I have 3 kids and my youngest is a finance major. She's getting into the business school now at the University of Hawaii. So she does study beyond surfing and freediving. But she told me the other day she wants to continue in finance and possibly be a CFP. So, we're making progress over time.
Love that.
Bravo.
We're rooting for her to make that choice.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Me too.
Before we move on to our next question, if you've been a listener of the show, you know how passionate Joanna and I are about the next generation of women advisors and investors.
And we are so proud to be partnering with Axtella, who is providing resources for professionals through efforts like their Nova Women's Collective, which enables members to network, connect, and gain insights from their peers.
So if you want in on that, check out all they have to offer at go.axtella.com/WomenShare. That's go.axtella.com/WomenShare.
Okay, so Terri, when we worked together at Wealth Enhancement Group, I always admired the fact that here you are, like chief operating officer of this huge RIA that's on an enormous growth track, yet you still found space and prioritized like creating a women's affinity group within our organization. And I know myself included, you would personally mentor and reach out to women within the organization. So how did you make that work? Because certainly there was enough on your plate in terms of the demands of your role, but then tell us how you thought about carving out this part of of your impact in the organization.
Sure. So I'll start out first with, have you ever read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yes. Stephen Covey. Yes.
Yeah. Well, one of the things he talks about is begin with the end in mind. And you actually write your obituary as a part of it. Now, that might seem like a scary thing to do, but it's actually very freeing. And when you begin with the end in mind and you think about, what is my brand? What do I want to be known for? Like, if people were speaking at, on my last day, what would they say about me? And for me, my passion has always been that I'm a servant leader, first and foremost, that I'm here to serve and to help people remove the roadblocks to their own personal achievement, right? If I'm as a leader can help everyone achieve their own personal achievements, then we all get better. The boat rises together. And we all have different strengths. We're a tapestry of talent. And so my goal has always been, how do I get the richest, most positive, most productive team in a culture that's collaborative and energizing and inspiring? And I want to be around people that inspire me. And I hope I can do the same for them. And so when I did that, Joanne, I just made sure that, mentoring, supporting, serving those who don't have access, right? And one of the ways that I believe women can help other women as well as minorities and ethnically diverse people is provide access, right? Provide access to what happens at the executive table, what conversations go on. For so many employees, Joanna, it's a black box. And when people don't know what's happening, fear comes about.
Mm-hmm.
So in my career, I've always had shadow days in my work. So I'll pick people, at least one a quarter where they follow me the whole day and they get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we did that both physically when people were in the office, and we've done it through Zoom and other circumstances. And at the end of the day, people go, wow, like that's a lot of stuff. And they use different words to deal with, right?
Yeah.
But I think this is a daytime show, so I won't use any foul language. And they start to realize the type of work is obviously very analytical work. It's very structured work, but it's also very emotional work. And so they start to see what happens. And so the more women you bring into that, they start to feel more capable. And then, this whole saying, you got to see what you can be. Well, if you can see another woman doing a job like that, and she's going to make mistakes, she's going to have achievements, she's going to have a variety of different perspectives, then you as a woman can. And so, specifically in my prior jobs, I did something called the huddle. And Joanne, I think you were part of that. The huddle is meant to be, I played a lot of sports growing up. The huddle is meant to be our time together. We huddle, we plan, we discuss, we strategize, we give feedback, right? Like huddles, when you're in a volleyball huddle or basketball huddle, not everyone's like, hey, Leah, you were awesome, right? They might say something like, Leah, you might want to get your elbow up on your shot because it would go in more often, right? And Leah doesn't run away and go, oh, that hurt. She goes, yeah, I'm going to get that elbow up. And so the huddle is designed for women to come together and say, okay, what do we need to do differently? How do we get better? How do we communicate more effectively? How do we handle our kids, our personal side, our husbands and our NPS score? Whatever it is, it's a huddle. And we get together, we talk, and we help each other, we support each other, and then we go our own ways. But we always have that huddle, a safe place to go back to.
I love that. And I feel like you've probably given a lot of fantastic career advice to the people you've brought kind of under your wing. But I'm curious, we do ask every guest that comes on the show, what's the best career advice that you've ever received?
Well, I've received a lot, and I've had some amazing mentors in my life. But the best advice that I've ever received that I think about a lot, and it's this: it's okay for questions not to have answers, but it is not okay for answers not to be questioned.
Ooh, I love that.
And it's so important to me that it's okay if I don't have all the answers in every meeting, or if my team doesn't have all the answers, because we get to the answers together as a team. But it's not okay if someone says they have the answer, but they're not allowed to be questioned on that, myself included. And I've seen that work very effectively in teams because it gives everyone permission to question the answer, because that gets us to a better solution in the long run.
I feel like every team needs a disruptor. Every team needs the person that's going to ask the question that like no one else is going to ask or hasn't even thought of, quite honestly. We had a guest on early when we launched, Lisa Gilbert, and she very much is a disruptor and always came to question all the decisions, and not because she was trying to be disruptive, but because ultimately it made whatever the decision was, the project, etc., better in the long term.
Yeah. Well, Leah, I think Lisa sounds like someone, there's a systematic way of thinking called de Bono, 6 solutions to every problem. And it's called the hat theory. And so in any meeting, you have someone with a black hat that's going to be like Mr. or Mrs. Grumpy. And then there's someone who has the green hat that's going to say, oh, that's a great solution. Then you have the yellow hat that's like really always questioning, cautionary, and then the red hat that is just absolutely disruptive. And you keep rotating those hats, because then no one gets labeled as anything, but you get to the right decision. And that's an effective way to bring out the best in everyone.
Love that. 6 thinking hats. That's right. I feel like I read that 20 years ago, early in my career. Good one to dust off. Well, and we covered, Terri, so many of your professional achievements on the show today, but what's something outside of work that we can celebrate with you?
Oh, goodness gracious. There's so many things. My husband and I are now empty nesters, and we moved about 1.5 years ago after our lost daughter went off to college. And we're just enjoying life so much. It's just beautiful out here, right along the ocean. I see whales on a regular basis, and deers and bears and everything else.
Oh my gosh.
So that's number one. And, 31 years has been a real positive in my life. My son just got married 1 year ago, and he's thriving. My middle daughter is graduating from the University of San Diego at the end of this month. And my youngest is going to study abroad next fall. And so I live for these moments of celebration, small things, large things, and just continuing to realize all the positive things that are happening in life.
Wow.
The only other thing I'd say I really celebrate is at least once a year I do a race with one of my kids, whoever wants to run along with me. My middle daughter did a triathlon with me last fall. I'm going to be doing another half marathon with my other daughter this fall. So we try to fit in fun family things along the way too. I'm not sure they think it's fun, but I sure enjoy it.
But what a great tradition though. And like those memories to have,
Yeah.
right? Of doing those endurance races.
We
together.
call them gold marble moments. We have a lot of gold marble moments.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Love that. Oh, Terri, this has been so much fun. And I'm just a little bit in awe of you. Actually, you're just
thank you.
amazing. And we're just so thankful that you were on the show. And thank you for coming and sharing your story. If someone wants to get in touch with you, find out more about Rise Growth Partners, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, you can find it on Rise Growth website. I'll be there. Otherwise, just Terri at risegrowth.com. Very easy. For my last job in my career, I'm so happy I have a very easy email because I've had some really long ones in the past. It took forever to fill out all those forms. So this is like efficiency at its best.
Love
That's
it.
fantastic. And Terri, all of your information will also be linked on your profile on our website, linked to this episode, so people can go there to find you on LinkedIn and email. And I want to say thank you again to our sponsor, Axtella, a network of firms that goes the extra mile for the next generation of women advisors and investors. For more information, visit them at go.axtella.com/WomenShare. That's go.axtella.com/WomenShare.
And believe it or not, that is our show for today. If ours is a mission that you share in, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you love to listen to podcasts. We're on them all. And with that, I'm Leah Alter.
And I'm Joanna Erisman, and we'll catch you on the next episode of WomenShare.